Let us prepare our hearts, our minds for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind.
I am open to the world. I will never be alone. I surrender to my heart. I allow myself to feel. I am open to the world. I have never been without. All I need is in me now. I allow my eyes to see the great reality. I am open to the world. I will never be alone. I surrender to my heart. I allow myself to feel. I am open to the world. I have never been without. All I need is in me now. I allow my eyes to see the great reality.
So we take a deep breath. We allow ourselves to settle into this space. We allow the shoulders to relax. We're comfortable. We have the eyes closed. Allowing ourselves to shut out the different sensory inputs of the eyes, the ears, the touch, to simply be still in this moment. Allowing each breath to be a little bit slower and more relaxed than the previous breath. We allow that sense of peace to just wash over the body as we exhale. And we release all of the thoughts, all the distractions of the world. And we settle into that presence of peace, of the divine within. Each breath taking us deeper, allowing us to slow down, allowing us to be still, allowing us to be silent. And we'll take some time in the silence together, knowing that is a miraculous experience to bridge the gaps of time and space and to join each other in spiritual communion in the silence. And we are truly blessed to be able to come together in this way, to share in this space, with this intention to be able to return to this space at any time during the week when we feel unsettled, when we feel distracted, allowing the breath to slow us down and bring us back into the silence of peace. We're grateful for this time together and we give thanks. And so it is. And when we're ready, we open our eyes.
As a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. That's why some folks eat like kings and queens, and some just get the crumbs. It's a fundamental principle, not just a rule of thumb, that as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. I know a man who likes to tell the sad story of his life, how so-and-so once done him wrong and caused him all of this strife. Too bad the man can't understand that he gets the tune he strums, 'cause as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. Well, as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. That's why some folks live in misery and some have all the fun. It's a fundamental principle, not just a rule of thumb, that as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. And I know a woman who finds the good in everything she sees, who never doubts her power to manifest whatever she may please. It's no surprise, no matter what she tries, that good just seems to come. 'Cause as a woman thinketh, that's what her life becomes. Oh, thinketh, that's what her life becomes. That's why some folks get the chocolate cake and some just get the crumbs. It's a fundamental principle, not just a rule of thumb, that as a woman thinketh, that's what her life becomes. Well, first it takes intention. Be clear on what you want, 'cause nothing's gonna happen for a mind that's nonchalant. And did I mention that it takes intention, constant focus on the plan? 'Cause every single thought we think adds up to our life sum. Well, as a man thinketh, that's just what his life becomes. That's why some folks live in misery and some folks have the fun. And up under principle, not just a rule of thumb, that as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes. And as a woman thinketh, that's what her life becomes. And as a man thinketh, that's what his life becomes.
Yes, the music ministry of David Trolley. Oh, that was fun. And it was the truth, too. You better watch out what you're thinking. That's what your life might become. Well, what an absolute joy it is for me to be able to welcome Reverend Shad back to Unity of Davis. He was with us about a year or so ago, and so much has happened in his life since then. My goodness. But, you know, what do you say to introduce Reverend Shad? He grew up in Unity. His mom and dad are Unity ministers. They have the church in Boulder, a successful ministry in Boulder. His sister is becoming a minister. He lived in Las Vegas, and well, I won't say what he did there, but it was very high tech in Vegas, taking care of the high tech business, which he brought joyfully into our Unity conventions at one time, and recently served as the CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and is probably taking a deep breath now that he's moved on to founding a church in Lee Summit, Missouri, and back to pulpit ministry, the Fillmore Church. Well, Reverend Shad, I'm looking forward to your talk this morning, and welcome back to Unity of Davis.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and just get started. Everyone can hear me okay? Yes, good. All right, well, we're going to dive into a little discussion about divine intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And first, I just want to announce we can all be very excited about the future of affordable childcare is here. And if you had not heard this, I think you're all going to be very excited that finally, we've all been waiting for, Rosie the robot is actually real. We can all just, we're finally living in the future that many of us saw growing up, or we were as kids or young adults. The future is here, like it or not, it is here. This is a magazine article, says the future of robot nannies. A machine can't love our children, but our children might love them. Boy, doesn't that just feel warm and soft and cozy? A machine might not be able to love your children, but your children might be able to love them. When I read that article, obviously I'm being a little sarcastic, it made me a bit uncomfortable. Even just that headline made me a little bit uncomfortable. When sometimes you have that voice in the back of your head that goes, I don't know if this is really a good thing. Well, let's just go down this rabbit hole a bit. Is it possible that the more we engage with non-living things, the less we will care about living things? The more we spend time engaged with non-living things, is it possible that that's shutting down our capacity to care about living things? The more we engage with our phone, our computer, automation, non-living technology, robots, these things, is it possible that we will lose our ability to care for living things? Well, that's something that's been on my mind lately. And something that keeps coming up in front of me is this. What's wrong with this picture? Well, some of you might be looking for some secret hidden Easter egg or gem here that you have to find the picture, but really it's the overall concept that there's humans there missing from the checkout process in the checkout lane. And for me, I've seen this happening more and more everywhere I shop, from grocery stores to even IKEA has pretty much removed all people checking anyone out in the lanes. Home Depot, different places I go, you just about don't see any humans anymore checking you out. For some people, they think that's great. It's automation. We're moving into the future. This is the wave of the way things are. For me, what I see is someone has potentially lost an income. Someone has potentially lost a way to feed their families. And I've lost an opportunity for human interaction. When I'm in line, not only am I talking to the people around me, but I'm also talking to the person at the register as I'm checking out. I might have a brief interaction. I might get to know that person over time if I shop there regularly. I might ask how their day's doing. But now with the new self-checkout, none of that is taking place. I have my isolated experience where I go in, I have my isolated groceries. I don't have to talk about it to anybody in line. I don't have to talk about anybody in checkout. And then I leave and I get in my car and I go home. Now, me personally, I often request if they can open a lane to actually have a human check me out so I can still have that interaction. Or if they only have self-checkout, I'll actually request that one of their staff come over and run the self-checkout for me to really still encourage a human being employed, a human having a human interaction, because I think that's very important, and it's at least important in my life. Well, here's a study that was done recently. It says the relationship between human interactions with animals, empathy, and pro-social behavior among children. Very interesting. It goes on to say, interactions with non-human animals, such as pets, may play a particularly important role in empathy development. That is our ability to care for something other than ourselves. Important role in empathy development among children. Spending time with animals may, in fact, provide young children with an early opportunity to care for another living being. Oddly enough, we were talking about our pets before we actually started the service this morning and how much we love our pets. And there's actually research to say this is crucially important for children, which goes on to say, because young children are primarily the recipients of care, this role reversal may train the development of pro-social emotions such as empathy. So this further backs up the idea that it's possible that the less we engage with living things, the less we are able to empathize with living things. And so children that may not be growing up with the taking care of an animal, a household pet, or working a farm, or whatever it might be, actually have an opportunity to be missing out on developing the empathy to care for other living beings as they grow up. So just something to keep in mind as we're going into this very exciting world. So it would seem the less we directly interact with living things, the less we are concerned with what we do to them, including each other. Now, I don't think it's going to be any shock to any of you of how much divisiveness there is in the world today. And as we've watched the rise of social media and technology that has isolated us into our own little camps of what we believe and surrounded us with just the people that agree with us, further entrenching our beliefs, our personal beliefs, we've now seen that we're drifting apart as human beings and that we have an easier time, not us in this room, but obviously those that don't have this incredible unity principles, an easier time to throw slurs at each other, to judge each other, to separate from each other, to march against each other, so that this isolation, this disconnect from human beings actually outpictures as separation in the real world and a lack of empathy for each other, not just empathy for animals, but a lack of empathy for other human beings whatsoever. So here's an article, very fascinating article. says where AI thrives, so that's where artificial intelligence thrives, religion may struggle. A series of studies suggest an inverse relationship between automation and religiosity. So what is religion? Well, fundamentally, I would say religion is how to live in harmony with God and God's creation. God's creation is each other, nature, and all creatures. So fundamentally, religion is around to help us learn how to live with God, whatever we're going to call it in our particular religion, and how to live with each other and in harmony with God's creation, which is nature, which is all the creatures that share this experience with us. So this article is saying a series of studies suggest an inverse relationship between automation and religiosity. So the more automated our world becomes, the less religious people become. Very interesting. It says countries where workers had more exposure to robots tended to experience a decline in religiosity, the research finds. The quotes is saying, occupational artificial intelligence exposure explained variation in religious belief across individuals, but also religious decline in the same individual over time, the researcher writes. So the more a person is using artificial intelligence in their work, in their day-to-day job, the less religious they become. The less part of this thing we just define religion as is this experience of God or this empathy for God and this trying to figure out how to live in God's world, the more detached from that they became. So let's talk a little bit about divine intelligence versus artificial intelligence, which really could be a conversation about the infinite mind versus the digital mind. The infinite mind being this universal intelligence that's in and through all things, everywhere, at all times, as far as you could possibly imagine, far beyond what you could even imagine, and the digital mind that is now trying to gain ground on that infinite mind as it's learning and studying all the digital information on this planet. And did you know that the current artificial intelligence algorithms are running out of data to analyze on this planet? They've scanned every single video, every recorded, every document that's ever been uploaded to the internet, every single song, every single talk or sermon someone gave. They're running out of data to analyze. That's how smart they've become. So they're trying to figure out how to get new data for them to analyze and to have artificial intelligence create new data for the other artificial intelligence to start to study. So that's how far along this process is. So you have the infinite mind, and then you have the digital mind that is starting to be in our lives. Well, let's check in with Charles Fillmore from the Revealing Word about our power, the metaphysical meaning of power. It says, mankind is the power of God in action. To man is given the highest power in the universe, the conscious power of thought. I want to just pause right there for a second. The conscious power of thought. Mankind is the power of God in action. To man is given the highest power in the universe, the conscious power of thought. There is a universal creative force that urges man forward to the recognition of the creative power of his individual thought. Possibly the most powerful force in the universe that human beings or creatures could have is thought, individual thought. So much power given to that. So what happens when something starts thinking for us? What happens when we're giving away our power of individual thought or even collective thought to something else, and now it's starting to think for us? Well, these are the types of things that spin throughout my brain throughout the day as I'm reading and studying what's happening in the world, and I'm reading and studying my Fillmore books and my unity theology, and I'm diving in, and both are sort of just sitting in my brain going, well, what's currently happening in the world today? What does this mean for us? Well, is it possible the more we give away our God-given power, the less we will be capable of experiencing that power? Is it possible the more we give away our God-given power, this power of thought, individual and collective thought, the less we'll be capable of experiencing that power? And Charles Fillmore actually spoke about this. And of course, if you don't know, Charles Fillmore is a co-founder of Unity. He spoke about this idea that the more you're giving away your inherent God-given powers, you are actually less capable of experiencing God in your life. Because you've handed away your ability to connect with God, you're losing your ability to connect with God at the same time. So we see in the world today, the more disconnected we become from each other, because remember, we're all expressions of God, the more we're becoming disconnected from God itself. And the less we're going to be able to experience God, unless we start to work back towards connecting with each other, back towards connecting with God, then we'll start to open up more of that ability to connect with God. Well, in Exodus, we read these wonderful words. It says, then God spoke all these words, quotes as saying, I'm the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. I think a lot of us have heard that last quote, you shall have no other gods before me, which you might initially think, well, what an egotistical God this is. It's trying to say, well, you're not allowed to have anyone but me. I want you only thinking about me. I want you only praying to me. It's very egotistical. But when we really break this down, understand it in our metaphysical terms, God is speaking to the Israelites in this story, in the physical sense of this story, but what's really happening, this is God speaking to our illumined spiritual thoughts, our Christ thoughts. This is God awakening our Christ consciousness, trying to bring us into a higher thinking, a higher state of awareness. But also pointing out that God has brought us out of our ignorant thinking, our egoic small thinking, which is this land of Egypt. And God's reminding us, don't forget, your higher thinking brings you out of your lower egoic thinking. And I'm helping you do that. So don't try to go find other things to put in front of me, because that drops you back into this Egypt egoic small thinking. We're trying to stay in that higher illumined spiritual thinking. That is the goal here. Well, when you really think about it, you analyze your life. And for me, I'll say, I'll just take it personally, whatever is the highest authority in my life influences my thinking, and I've realized is my God. And I've had times in my life where I've been overly focused on my finances. And I'd have to say in that moment, money was my highest authority. It was influencing my thinking. And at that point in time, money was my God. For some people, it's their job. All they're thinking about is advancing their job or moving their career, whatever it be. In that point in time, their career is their highest authority in their life. It's affecting their thinking, and their career has been their God. Or it might be a relationship, it might be a car, it might be whatever it might be. Whatever is the highest authority in your life, which is consuming your thoughts and you're putting most of your energy towards, is now affecting the way you think. It's affecting the way you see the world, and it has now become your God. And you have now put that in front of God. If we go back to that previous quote, God says, don't put any gods before me. This higher thinking, well, don't put anything in front of that higher thinking. You have to keep God and this Christ consciousness. It's the foremost authority in your life. But if we start getting distracted and putting something else in its place, now we're dropping back into that Egypt egoic separation mindset. Something very special happens in the book of Isaiah. It says, the wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. This really sits with me in today's world. Who's leading us down the direction we're heading in? Who's leading us down the direction of automation and artificial technology? Who's leading us down the direction of trying to make everything more convenient and done for us, thinking for us, acting for us, working for us? Who's leading us the direction? It's not the kids, believe it or not. It's us. It's these generations of them and higher that are actually taking us down this direction. It's people that are currently in the power positions are taking us in this direction. But when you look at what's actually happening to the youth of the world today, this article, very fascinating, says, a curious tech rebellion is brewing amongst young people. It goes on to say, Ross Barkan, who is a writer, has explored the curious rebellion that is fomenting amongst those who are 30 years old and younger. He believes there's a quiet nostalgia for a tech-free life that has been brought on by the constant barrage of information that numbed entire generations to the tragedies that surround them. So they're actually facing a situation in the world where they call it tragedy burnout or empathy burnout. We've had so much barrage of information from social media and the news cycles that are at us 24 hours a day that people are losing their ability to care about what's happening. They're shutting down. It's like a candle burning at both ends. Eventually, it meets in the middle and it can't burn anymore. You have no more energy to care about what's happening in the world. So we're seeing empathy burnout across a lot of generations, older generations that are really still buying into the media cycles and systems. But these younger folks are seeing what's happening. And a lot of them is saying, I don't want to go down this road anymore. I've seen my older sister and brother, I've seen my parents, I've seen my grandparents getting lost in this digital world, and I don't know if I want to go anymore. So then it goes on to say, by making the move to abandon modern technology, these young people are embracing older technologies. From astrology to snail mail, these generations are attempting to forge their own path forward that doesn't include copious amounts of digital information. Is that not absolutely fascinating to you all? I find that absolutely fascinating, and I find that very exciting. So much so I almost want to go out and get rid of my iPhone and get a flip phone right now and just go back to 2001. Just, let's just roll it back. I'm with these young people that are actually having an insight to foresee when enough is enough and when perhaps technology has gone too far. So through the power of free will, God gave us this incredible power of free will. We get to choose our personal and collective experience. We get to co-create our future. I've actually spoken about artificial intelligence and God and AI and infinite intelligence in several different platforms I've been invited to speak. And quite often I hear people say, well, this is far out of my control. It's far out of my realm of influence. I might as well just enjoy it and move along with it. And that's, somewhat of a defeatist mindset we've heard when it comes to anything from nuclear technology to nuclear war to food shortages to climate, crisis. People say, it's so far out of my realm of influence. Why should I care? Why should I bother with it? And any of us who've been activists in anything we're passionate about always have to deal with that thought system, that I have no way of impacting it. Why should I bother even voting? What we really have, our lives are a small microcosm of the macrocosm. And what we do in our microcosm, the little universe we have of the people around us, is actually reflected in the macrocosm. What we choose to engage with in our personal lives does affect the lives of those around us. And in Unity, we of course know that to be true. What we do affects those around us. We don't have to have the power to choose the direction of technology and artificial intelligence. But we do have the power to choose in our personal lives what we're willing to engage with and when we're going to say enough is enough. For me, removing people from the checkout line, I say enough is enough. That's not okay with me anymore. I see jobs being lost and I want to make a stand. I want to point out to people when I'm there, look, I want someone to check me out. I want this organization to pay that person to bag my groceries. I want to see people getting jobs. I don't want to see them losing jobs. If we as individuals start to choose what's appropriate in our life, we don't have to think about the larger picture and big law changes about artificial intelligence. We choose with our small micro decisions what's appropriate and what are we creating together for our future in God's plan. God has a plan for goodness. God has love, and we are putting that plan in place through our actions each day. Are we going to care about our fellow human beings? Are we going to care about the plants and the animals and this beautiful creation God has created? I know we are, and I know that's what we're called to step into today. It's just a matter of sometimes reminding ourselves of the power we have not to give away our thoughts and our thinking to someone else thinking they have it figured out. No, it's always our responsibility each and every day to take our thinking back and say, no, I'm going to think about what is appropriate in this moment, regardless of what any outside sources tell me. I have the power to think what is appropriate in this moment with my kids, with my grandkids, with my neighbors, with my grocery store clerk, wherever it might be. What is right and appropriate now? And that is the truth as I experience it. Thank you all.